I'm Dr. Mercy, and I would like to say congratulations to President Obama and First Lady Michelle. I've won this especially for saying congratulations. And I have an open letter for President Obama. It says Dr. Mercy's open letter to President Obama on Zimbabwe 2009. Dear President Obama, when you and your family get sick, would you like to ride this ambulance? No. Sanctions on Zimbabwe are having poor people experience this kind of an ordeal. Extreme poverty in Zimbabwe due to satanic economic sanctions illegally imposed on Zimbabwe by USA, UK, and the EU. And this is leading to marginalization of poor people. You can see these ones in the rural areas where buses and transport is a problem. They are having to resort to this poor mode of transportation. Please, President Obama, lift sanctions on Zimbabwe. President Obama, ever since President Bush imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe in 2001, Zimbabwe's life for native black women has become a nightmare due to evil sanctions imposed by EU, USA, and UK, sanctions which favor the elite. 2009 in Zimbabwe, today it's a nightmare. This picture is analogy to show that the black poor carry the burdens of the rich few who have access to US dollars. She will never eat the food she is carrying. That hamburger, she will never have it. She will never drink the Coke that she is carrying because she does not have the US dollars. Ashika here. President Obama, please, I beg you, will you lift the sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe? I call them satanic sanctions. See why I call them satanic sanctions? After illegal sanctions, underclass blacks in Zimbabwe, who are the majority of the population, are now being starved to death. Some might mock this little boy and call him a trillionaire. I don't. This little boy here, as you see in the picture, is carrying billions of Zimbabwean dollars, and the poor boy is looking for someone to trade and get at least $1 or $2 US to buy a loaf of bread. Mr. President, the native poor boy has faith, hence the smile. You can see, President, the smile tells it all. He is smiling, yet life has become a burden. Please, President, lift the satanic sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe. President Obama, would you like to be taken to hospital in this ambulance? No. Look at this. Please lift the evil sanctions on Zimbabwe. Again, this poor black woman poses how Africa's poor carry burdens to empower the global rich. Sanctions marginalize living natives in abject poverty due to failed international foreign policy that targets indigenous poor blacks in Zimbabwe. Please, President Obama, let's just have a look at what is happening today in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe and the US dollar is the title of this chart. Satanic sanctions benefit only 20% of Zimbabwe's population. Things were okay before 2001 sanctions imposed by USA, UK, and the European Union. Look at this picture, Mr. President. I found it on internet 2 weeks ago. This line here is a grocery store. This line says only US dollars, with all the good food, but only to be bought in US dollars. And you see here that line, extreme poor blacks asked to buy in US dollars, and they do not have. Mr. President, US imposed sanctions in 2001. After the satanic sanctions, poor blacks without the money in 2009 are now required to buy in US dollars. Please, Mr. President, social justice delayed, that is social injustice at its worst. Where is this poor orphan going to get the US dollar to buy the food? So what's going to happen? They will just starve to death. Please, Mr. President, help this orphan. She needs a change. Dear Mr. President, your father was of a Bantu tribe. Today, the Abantu tribe of Zimbabwe is being wiped out by satanic sanctions that kill the poor due to extreme poverty, Mr. President. Sanctions marginalize living natives in abject poverty due to international foreign policy that has become a failure. Like I said, your father is of the Abantu tribe. The Zimbabwe poor are the Abantu tribe. Please help. What happened to the beliefs of St. Vincent de Paul of the 1650s, a Roman Catholic whose belief was based on passion and dignity for each individual person in the universe? Bless you, Mr. President, and please lift the satanic sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe.